I would love to hear from you both sort of things that you're thinking about, challenges that you see, and then questions you have about the way I approach things. So I grew up in rural Vermont in a small town of about 2,000 people. I went to Yale. My first job out of Yale was as a special ed teacher's aide. Schools and public funding of education is something that I care very deeply about, and I care about it because I think it's the infrastructure of democracy. And I also care about it because I've been in a small classroom, a well-funded small classroom, with kids who have emotional struggles and seen how hard even that can be. And I feel like we have a real crisis right now in what's happening in education. I then went to law school. I represented people on death row and started a death penalty nonprofit in North Carolina. I went to law school at Duke. And then after that, I ended up, sort of by accident, as the director of online organizing for Howard Dean's campaign in 2002. I was responsible for 17 states that nobody had heard of. So I showed up early and they said, well, we need somebody to take care of these 17 states. And so using the internet and then using a lot of phone calls and a lot of long conversations with organizers all around the country, we built power in those 17 usually ignored states. And then took the methods we were using in those states to actually build the same kind of power across the country. When I joined Governor Dean's campaign, he was an asterisk in the polls. And he was the only candidate who was against the war. In fact, he was mocked for being against the war. The mainstream political newspapers said, no serious Democrat can be opposed to the war in Iraq. Clinton made statements about this. You can't be a serious candidate, a muscular candidate, if you're opposed to the war in Iraq. 9 months later, all the Democratic candidates, except one, were opposed to the war in Iraq. So I have seen the power of truth-telling and of grassroots organizing and of persistence and of winning over the way that we think about things, the way we approach things in relatively short periods of time. That's the kind of campaign that I want to run here. A campaign based on truth-telling, a lot of grassroots organizing, a lot of empowerment of local communities to come together and do their own organizing. So I don't, those of you who end up supporting me, this is a permission-free campaign. I want to know what you're doing, but I'm not going to tell you what to do or what not to do. I want to tell you what could be useful, but if you think, oh my gosh, we got something else that we can do, we have another way of organizing around it, we're going to do some swimming pool organizing and some teach-out organizing at the same time, that's great, and I won't have thought of that because I won't know what's happening in your own local community. So I want to talk a little bit about why, actually one other thing is, speaking of what primaries can do, which I saw with Governor Dean, is look at what happened today. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but the IDC is coming home to the Democrats, and Governor Cuomo agreed to do that after my campaign started and after I challenged him for the nomination of the Working Families Party. So there are a lot of different pieces that came together to make that happen, but I'll tell you, Governor Cuomo does not do much without pressure. And so we're going to apply some pressure. I am running because I think he does not represent the state. It's very simple. I don't think he represents the Democrats in the state, and I don't think he represents the people of the state. This is a state that traditionally has embraced deep democratic values, like public education. But instead of supporting public education, what Governor Cuomo has done is looted our education funding without even visiting schools, without even bothering to talk to teachers, and taken that money to pay for tax breaks for billionaires and bankers. And I think he's done it not because he has any deep theory, but because it's what serves his own long-term political ambition and what serves his donors. So 4 years ago, he stood on Boss Tweed, the courthouse named after Boss Tweed, and he said, I am going to clean up Albany. Look where we are 4 years later. He is being investigated for tampering in the Anti-Corruption Commission, which he set up and then shut down. The Moreland Commission. Now, I don't know if he did anything illegal, but I do know that he should not have shut down the most important anti-corruption investigation in over a generation when it didn't have time to do its work. He has failed on his promise to clean up Albany. We still have a broken system in Albany, and it's worse, and he's part of that system. And from everything we've seen in the last 4 years, he is not going to fix it because he's benefiting from it. My vision, there's so many things I want to do in this state. I really love this state. And I'll keep it simple, then we can talk about questions. But I know that this is the state where we've had this tradition of experimenting with democracy. And we have an experiment sitting right there about how we can fund political campaigns, public funding of elections. We have the votes in the state. We have the support in the state. We have Connecticut ahead of us. We have New York City ahead of us. We can do this, and a governor who actually wants to clean up Albany would get at these root issues of how we fund campaigns and make sure that's a priority, not a promise you make every 2 years. I want an economy that works for everyone. Right now, the economy just works for the wealthy and well-connected. We have an inequality crisis. What that means is that a governor who wants that economy would look at the tax code. I think of the tax code as the moral code of our state. It's where we make our decisions about what we value. And right now, that moral code is upside down. The richest people in the state, you guys have, you experience the property tax burdens here. What we tend to do is look at each of the taxes separately. But if you look at all the taxes together, the richest people in the state actually pay less as a percentage of their income than middle class and working class families. And you know how that's hitting you. It's hitting you in schools. Right now, Governor Cuomo is looting the funding of schools and expecting your community to take that burden on and to pay for it with property taxes. But this is a state responsibility. It's a constitutional responsibility and it's an ethical responsibility to fully fund our schools, have small class sizes, provide the support that kids need. I think you need arts. You can't have school without art. Some kids go to school for art and stay for math. Or they go to school for sports and stay for science. And this vision of just testing, as if you can test your way to an adulthood, instead of really paying attention to the people, the little people as they are, and doing the hard work. It's hard work, it's resource-intensive work to take care of our kids with high standards. I believe in high standards, to take care of our kids and take care of our future. I'll be very clear about where I stand throughout this campaign and when I'm governor. So let's talk about fracking. We should ban fracking. It is unhealthy, it is dangerous, and fracking would forever change this beautiful state. Its farms, and its gunks, and its waterlands, and its pastures into an industrial state that is dangerous, unhealthy, and not leading to a sustainable future. And every year we do not make absolutely clear that there is no room for fracking in New York is another year that we are not figuring out the sustainable future that we need. We need to be investing in that future instead of waiting and pretending and being very unclear just in case a few donors don't really want to have that ban out there. So I think that's there's both a question of what the right thing to do is, and there's a question of clarity. This is a governor who doesn't like to talk to the press. I can't get away from the press. I love talking to them so much. Two of my favorite governors are FDR and Teddy Roosevelt, both because they were trust busters and believed in campaign finance reform, and because they wanted to talk to the press all the time and learn from them. Your job as a governor isn't just to tell people, but it's to learn and have a dialogue back and forth with communities and with the people who are doing those investigations. So, as I said, I'll be telling the truth throughout this campaign. And I ask of you that you also tell me the truth. That you tell me the hard truths that you see. And then you also tell me your visions. I think we've gotten sort of a, New York has the best of everything. People come here from all over the world to get involved in arts, music, recreation, because we have this incredible tradition of demanding more and dreaming bigger. But we have this third-rate politics. And I think we should demand more in our visions of what we should have the best public schools in the country. That should be our expectation. We should be the leader in sustainable energy, not dragging our feet and following behind. We should be the leader in investing in infrastructure and building 21st century transportation models and imagining what that is and the kind of jobs we could create by investing in those things. And right now we've gotten so used to just expecting so little. So I want you to tell me the truth, and I also want you to tell me your dreams, and then we'll figure out how to get there. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I look forward to your comments and questions.